All right, here we are, August 2, 2024, Common Sense Ohio, making it happen at all costs. What's the price of common sense? It's got no, there is no limit to what we will do to bring common sense. I am driving in the car. We've got Norm and Brett at the studio, and we are bringing Common Sense Ohio to you remotely. Second week in a row. I think Norm and I were both gone last week, guys, but this is how important the show is to us. And, you know, for that matter, you can check us out at commonsenseohioshow.com. And if you want to be a sponsor, given the importance of how important we take this, you too could be important and become a sponsor. Check us out at commonsenseohioshow.com. You can leave us a note. You can check us out on all the regular social media platforms. Lots of people do. I saw, Norm, there was a comment on one of our discussions last week, and you know, you responded. So, I mean, look, the audience is interacting, and that only spreads the common sense that much further. So we love it when people participate. As I am driving here, I do not have a World War II fact of the day, but the show goes on. So, guys, I'll let you kick it off from the studio.
Well, a hacking has happened with the city of Columbus. It's occurred apparently a month ago, and the public is just now finding out more details. Evidently, they want $2 million, this consortium of hackers called Residia want $2 million, or I can't believe Bitcoin is worth this much, or 30 Bitcoins. $2 million or 30 Bitcoins in order to restore or take down off the dark web the entire database of the city of Columbus. It's truly mind blowing, and some of the spin-off effects is particularly hitting the firemen and police, their personnel and banking records. So the Columbus Police Union has asked that they be issued paper checks instead of direct deposit for their salaries. And the city refused to do that, instead providing them with some kind of like LifeLock software, something similar to that, so that they can check their credit rating and find out if they have, had their identity stolen. But it's interesting that the solution in both some of the ballot, voting controversies involving software, and now this hacking, that people want to go back to paper. So,
there's some interesting legal issues going on. So in my field, guys, I deal with sensitive information. I know accountants deal with sensitive information, and banks and such. But from a private business standpoint, I get it. Banks are sort of private, sort of. But from a small business standpoint, we'll say we're obligated to take some measures. And by obligated, I mean, if we don't, we risk a lawsuit. And for attorneys, they've raised the bar on what we have to do to protect our data. And, that caused me a couple of years ago to spend a bunch of dollars updating everything, getting rid of the servers and encrypting everything, getting data in the clouds where it's protected with, whatever it is. And then you just wonder, well, is it really protected? Or if I just paid a bunch of money and these hackers, it's this cat and mouse game, and it sounds like the cats won this one. And then you wonder, I hate to say this, but I think the government pretty much sucks at most things. And, did they spend the dollars that they're sort of implicitly requiring us to spend to protect data? And I hope they did. I hope they had the state-of-the-art security. But Norm, any input on how this occurs? Like, how does this possibly happen?
Apparently, so there was, a software guy explaining on one of the radio stations as a guest, and he said what they did was implanted some kind of a virus, months and months ago, and then let it matriculate throughout the system, and they are actually able now to use the city of Columbus's traffic cameras. Like this group can see everything the city of Columbus can see using their entire IT system, including traffic cameras. It's
Wow.
I mean, it's just off the hook.
Yeah. Well, and I think we need to take a look at it even deeper. This doesn't affect city employees to a certain degree. Yours truly gets paid by the city to do some podcasting for one of their entities.
Wow.
So and again, I realize, what? My stuff's in the dark web. I'm sure it is. I mean, everybody's is, but it's when you get this type of break in, you kind of go, whoa, wait a minute. I literally get a paper check from them though. They cut me a paper check, which is interesting. Yeah. I may be below the bar of like, okay, we don't spend that much money with you, so we'll cut you a check. There may be a $50,000 or $100,000 or $150,000 threshold, possibly. But it's amazing how it touches everybody, quite frankly.
Well, I mean, a couple observations there. I mean, we all are implicated in theory. I mean,
yeah.
I pay my Columbus taxes via the web.
Mm-hmm.
That information is there for the business as well as personal, and so all of those are electronic transactions now. And you wonder, it's like, how safe are we really? And then beyond that, though, I was laughing out loud when I heard Norm talk about these traffic cameras. Like, this is a movie, guys. You can just see these terrorists. Oh, like you think it's impossible in the movies when the terrorists take over traffic cameras and start causing havoc. But apparently it does happen. And apparently it's happened right here in the big city of Columbus.
Yeah.
A few years ago, the exact same thing happened in the county where I live, Licking County, Ohio, where the entire county's data system was hacked, and they demanded ransom like they are in the city of Columbus case. The Licking County did not pay it, but it took them, I think, 6 weeks to completely rebuild their IT system. And in the meantime, Steve, there were no court hearings. Like, everything was canceled that the county had any kind of electronic agenda or note keeping or scheduling. All those systems were down for a month and a half, I believe. And so the repercussions, as you say, for regular citizens, it's not just, people getting their salaries paid, and whether it's direct deposit or checking, it's the entire infrastructure. And wow, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Norm, I think what we should do, I didn't realize this, I didn't know the story. Otherwise, I think you and I both would have thought of this. We ought to get our guy. We ought to get our IT guy and get his insight into this.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
He's the one that helped me with my security in the business, and I know yours too.
Yeah.
We got to get him involved and figure out exactly how this happens. I mean, I've heard tale of people like leaving thumb drives and jump drives around, and as soon as one person sticks it in the computer, it's really a Trojan horse.
Yeah.
Right. And even that scenario blows my mind. Why would anyone pick up a thumb drive in a parking lot and want to see what's on it? Why would you do that? That is moronic. It is moronic.
Yeah, people do it.
But people
I have people, I talk about Licking County. That's one of the places, Norm, where we get discovery, say in a DUI case. Discovery comes in the form of paper documents, which a lot of times are transferred electronically as PDFs. But then there's videos. So we have these long body-worn video camera footage. So in the old days, we had no cameras. Then we got dash cams, which were sort of these, horrible VHS footage. And then it got digital. And now we have not only dash cams facing forward, we have dash cams facing backwards in the back seat at the same time. And now we have body-worn cameras by every cop.
Yeah.
And this footage, so the footage it's huge. I mean, it's a pain in the backside. But we get it on jump drives, and we have to send jump drives out to prosecutors. They then download the footage onto our jump drive and send it back. And we had this long rash of time during, the last few years where we don't get them back. And, they come back empty. People are stealing the jump drives from the envelopes.
Gee whiz.
And it's like, what are they doing with it? So you got to be careful. Like people will go to no ends or all lengths to rip you off and hustle you.
Well, I'd like to. So, Steve, if you'll put on your law professor hat, this is a question that has been kind of burning in me for a while. And as people may know from previous podcasts, I have a law degree, but I've never practiced law. I became a lobbyist and went into business and other things. So I never, no continuing legal education, no passing the bar, none of that for me. But Steve, if you'll put on your professor hat, I'm wondering about with this rollout of AI at various security posts. So I just heard the Columbus Zoo, for example, and I believe the airports are doing this, and maybe concert venues where they're going to have software look at a person and assess them and make a judgment about whether that person is packing a gun or other contraband, things that would not be allowed within that venue. And I'm wondering, would AI software amount to reasonable cause? It's one thing to say, hey, we think you got a gun, so you can't come into the baseball game, go away. It would be another thing if they use this AI, I'm guessing, Steve, if they would say, hey, that's reasonable cause for the officer here to do a body search and perhaps lead to legal consequences for the person being searched. Can you comment on that? Yeah, I'm curious. What do you think? Where are we going with all this?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. The first thing we should unpack is who is they? Who's doing this? So if it's a private concert venue, if it's my office, if it's your business, if it's Brett's business, if we're just say it's a hotel or say it's a seminar you go to, if they're using AI to screen and target and profile might be the best word, participants, and either not permit them in or exclude them or say you're going to be subject to a search now. That is different than if the police are doing it, say, on the side of the road, or say the police are doing it at the airport or some other area. Because what you have to have in order to trigger a constitutional violation is state action. So, for instance, this comes up all the time, or traditionally anyway, and in hotels. You've got the hotel service staff goes through a room. They find a duffel bag full of cocaine and guns in the closet or something like that. And they call the police and search, and the police come and they search the bag, and they find the cocaine and the person gets charged. The issue is whether that search was conducted by the government, because clearly there's a search and a seizure. And the answer is no, generally speaking. There's an exception, though, where the police are acting or where the private individuals are acting as agents on behalf of the police. So if the police say, hey, look, we've got this group of folks in your hotel, we've been watching them, would you please let us know if they leave any bags behind and look in them for us? Well, clearly now there is state action. So the first question is who's doing the searching, who's doing the screening, who's doing the profiling with the AI software? Assuming you have government action, in order to say do a pat-down search of somebody, you have to have something called reasonable suspicion. Reasonable suspicion means that an ordinary person would think, say, sort of commonly, that criminal activity is afoot. And, believe it or not, a lot of this case law really starts in Ohio, and this goes all the way back, I think, to a 1964 case called Terry versus Ohio. And this is a general Terry stop as a result of that. So if somebody's making furtive gestures, or if somebody is, the police see a transaction that looks suspiciously like a narcotics transaction, then they may have reasonable suspicion to go conduct a Terry stop and eventually a pat-down search. So now the question you're posing is whether AI software can provide the reasonable suspicion for a Terry stop. And I think ultimately it has to go there in some level. It's going to get up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they're going to have to figure this out. And it's going to be evaluated on case-by-case facts. What did the AI software conclude? What's the reliability of the software? All these questions are going to have to be answered, and there's going to be legal determinations about what the AI, the validity of the AI software. I mean, look, we pull people over because of a laser or a radar. So now we're going to do it based on AI software. So that you can see it, you can see the islands connecting, the archipelago connecting. where you're going to have a situation where eventually I think the courts will say that AI software can form reasonable suspicion. The other thing, guys, is a search conducted, let's say, like a dog sniff is not a search because it's not a person. So, eventually you can just sort of see as an AI screen an actual search, and the answer may be no. So there might be another way around this whole mess. But it's an very interesting proposition, and I think we're going to see lots of Fourth Amendment cases and jurisprudence stem from it.
Yeah, yeah. So just to be clear in my own mind, so if a dog leaps up and sniffs your pocket, and it's a drug dog, that does provide reasonable suspicion. If a dog points out a person by smell, does it?
Yes.
Wow. Wow. So you could see the parallel there with AI then, I guess.
Yeah. So I think the case was United States versus Place, Place. I might be wrong on that, but yeah, dog sniff is not a search. And, now there's other things that you have to take into consideration though. So a lot of times dog sniffs happen on the side of the road. You get pulled over and, lo and behold, it just is a coincidentally, a state trooper has a dog in his car ready to run around and sniff your car. Well, the dog sniff is not a search, but what is a Fourth Amendment problem is if the police have unlawfully delayed the stop. So if there's no reason to hold you or hold an individual and keep them there, then the search by the dog or the AI may not be a problem, but the detention without cause may be a problem.
Wow.
So
yeah,
there's nuances that will start getting layered upon or layered on top of this.
Well, thank you for that. It's been eating at me because, as we know, AI is only as good as the programming, and the programming on some of these AI, things have. I mean, it's been horrendous. There's even been lawyers that have turned in AI written briefs, and the judges have rejected them as just gibberish. So it obviously not yours and not most lawyers, but in a few cases where the AI software just did not live up to its billing as competent, basically.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I have law students working for me regularly, and currently they are relying on AI to do a lot of drafting and a lot of research in law schools, and they're learning how to do it. And the various legal research platforms have AI capabilities. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. It's very interesting. I was working on a legal brief for the Court of Appeals, and an issue came up sort of at the last minute, as it does. It's like, hey, I wonder what the law is on this particular evidentiary issue. And we ran it through an AI system, and it spat out a 2 or 3 paragraph memo that seemed very favorable to us, citing cases in Ohio and basically spelling out the legal arguments, eye-racking, issue, rule, and application, and the conclusion, analysis and conclusion of what's going on. I thought, wow, this is awesome. But, there's cases out there and situations, like you said, Norm, where lawyers are getting in trouble for submitting AI briefs. So I pulled up the case law that was cited by this AI software, and it was the opposite.
Oh my God.
It was wrong.
Oh my God.
It was painfully and blatantly wrong.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And going down this rabbit hole just a bit more, I ran across this video. You guys have heard of Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes. Yes.
And he made a comment on the Don Lemon show. I had to pull the video up because I didn't want to misquote him, but it's going to be a summary of it. But he is projecting that the potentials of AI, such as the deepfakes and misinformation that Steve's talking about, will be the downfall of internet.
Oh,
there's too much information out there that's wrong or misleading that it cannot discern. Yep. And we cannot make it discern it. It can only grab what we tell it to grab.
Yeah.
So the more crap that's out there, the more likely we will not be able to rely on any answer we get from the internet if you're utilizing AI, I guess. But I mean, how far does it go in regards to making it the whole internet untruthful, or it's making it very difficult to decipher it? Let's put it that way.
Well, look, guys, put on your foil hats here, because the issue I'm talking about along those lines, Brett, is this. In my case, the one I was working on, it had to do with whether the issue simplified was whether a defense attorney could cross-examine a witness about her bias, because this witness was testifying against the defendant's client. And the defendant was accused of committing some misconduct on the witness's girlfriend. The witness was also a girl, so it was a gay relationship. And, as I got the answer through AI, I wondered if it was filtered through a, sort of a woke ideology about what somebody wanted the answer to be. And, I think as I analyzed why we got the wrong answer, I think I came to a conclusion that was no, it had nothing to do with that. There was some other nuance to how the decisions that it relied upon were written, and something called dicta norm, where dicta doesn't support decisions. It's more of it's outside the realm of what is necessary for the case. But it made me wonder, if we're dealing with a gay relationship, are the powers that be trying to steer that? Because we've all had this experience when this stuff first came out. I think we were in the table doing it, where we're Googling things.
Yeah.
And you can't get certain answers. So if the famous ones are like, write me a poem about the positive aspects of Donald Trump, and it won't do it, but it'll do it for Biden. It's like, it's still governed by humans, and humans are inherently flawed, as we all know from our faith. And so you can't rely on things like that, because ultimately it comes back to humans. Now, when AI gets its own intelligence, not artificial, but its own, where it can start thinking on its own, that's when it gets really scary.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Hey, Steve, Brett, staying with the legal theme here, I'm curious what you two guys think about this plea deal that was announced yesterday involving the 9/11 planners. The guy that looked like John Belushi, and then there was another guy that they have down at Gitmo who actually cut the head off of, I guess, a couple of prisoners that ISIS or Al Qaeda had captured. And so the very guy who took a sword, cut off heads, the guy who planned 9/11 that looks like Belushi, and a third guy, they've been in Gitmo this whole time. And of course, the information, and their confessions were somewhat drawn out, or maybe completely drawn out, using waterboarding. And so this has been kind of corked up all these years while they have been in Gitmo. And I guess yesterday, the Department of Defense told the White House is claiming they had no advance knowledge that this was taking place, that the Department of Defense's lawyers had reached a plea bargain with the attorneys for the three terrorists in Gitmo, that they'll get life. They're going to have life sentences, but no death penalty is essentially the plea deal. And I'm just curious, what you guys think about that, because obviously they killed 3,000 people, And it's like, hey, death penalty sounds pretty good to me, regardless of how they extracted, because these are combatants. This isn't like a criminal thing to me. This is like warfare, and they violated the tenets of civilization. So I mean. I don't know.
I don't know enough about this. Is this a plea in a criminal court, or is this a war crime court?
Well, I think, Steve, that it's a military court. So I think they're being tried as military combatants against the United States. So, think of U-boat commanders and things like that that we tried in our military courts, or the Japanese. The army, the hierarchy that were tried in Japan, or the Nuremberg trials. Think of those kind of military trials.
Yeah, and I think I don't know the rules in those and how that works. I mean, I hate to use the word Mickey Mouse court or kangaroo court, but sometimes, because I'm sure there's rules, and I'm sure it's standardized. But so I don't know if I know enough to comment on that at least accurately. I can certainly offer some speculation, though, and I think sometimes you see these headlines, and the people on one side of the equation will say, the current regime is soft on 9/11 terrorists. On the other hand, there may have been a reason for the deal. There's always a reason for negotiations, and nobody ever feels good about a negotiation, but or nobody ever feels like they won completely. But sometimes that's best. So maybe they got information from these people, and it was worthy of a deal. Maybe there was a huge problem behind the scenes with something that happened during the investigation, and the government didn't want that to come out. Or maybe because of by having a trial, there would be sensitive information that the defense could present that would compromise other cases or other activities by the government. So there's always more to it.
Like video of the CIA doing the waterboarding on these guys would probably be exhibit number 1, right?
Yeah. But even beyond that, though, like what if there's other sensitive information that we don't want to come out because of ongoing investigations of current terrorists?
Yeah.
So and let's not sneeze at a life sentence. I think to some extent, if you look at the ideology of the terrorists, they might be happier with a death penalty than sitting in prison for life.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Or it could be.
It's not always.
Yeah, I was going to think of the opposite too. I'm kind of surprised they don't want to be killed to be a martyr.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Okay.
Maybe,
Yeah. So it's really kind of opposite of what they want.
Yeah.
Even though it's a plea deal, but we kind of win. They don't become a martyr. Yeah. That was the first thing that came to my mind. But yeah, I know those military courts. And again, I'm absolutely not even close to being a lawyer, but I've heard you guys talk about it, and you hear about it in the news and stuff. The military courts are just totally different.
Yeah.
Than what we even can grasp on why they do things. But you're right. I think that may be a good point. That let's just stop this right now, because there are a lot of stuff we don't want to come out in further investigations or reports and stuff, and that stops it.
Yeah,
it could be.
I mean, look, I've had cases disappear, even weird state court cases, because there's a contemporaneous federal investigation on something that's remotely related, and the federal government just does not want to even have any risk that it's going to compromise the other investigation. So it's not an uncommon scenario. It happens.
Turning a little bit now to the Secret Service has been testifying in D.C. in front of the House and the Senate. The new acting director since the one during Trump's assassination, Kim Cheadle, she resigned. So they have an acting director, and it's interesting to me that he has admitted that prior statements by the Secret Service were just outright. Now, he didn't use the word lie, but he said they were inaccurate. And I'll call them lies. One of the things in the immediate aftermath of Trump being shot was some claims by the RNC that the Trump campaign had asked for enhanced Secret Service protection. And the Secret Service said, oh, no. They never asked for any. They didn't ask, and they were never turned down on any additional protection. And he admitted in front of Congress that actually the Trump campaign did ask for more protection, and it was turned down. And then the other thing are various details they are now admitting were bullshit. Like the cop, the counter snipers were not up on that roof that the sniper used because it had too steep of a pitch. Things like that. They have now, so they're admitting these misstatements, which I'll call lies. And I'm just wondering, we have guys in prison because they wouldn't go and testify in front of Congress, or that they lied, and they were therefore asked to be indicted by the DOJ for lying to Congress. And I'm just wondering, it's amazing to me that these people tell these lies, and then they're not held accountable. And and these are government officials that are just gaslighting us. And it's disturbing to me that they don't ever seem to get fired. They don't ever, nothing happens to them, and it's irritating as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find this gross. I mean, look, these people, the response out of this was inadequate. to say the least. Nobody believed that the roof was too steep. I mean, they're just feeding us a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder why. This is why transparency in a government is so critical, because I'm not the first person to jump to conspiracy theories, but when this kind of crap happens, as I've said hundreds of times, it creates a constellation of stars that easily can be connected to form a conspiracy theory. And equally plausible is gross incompetence and human and the human flaw at the core of it. You know, people don't want to admit when they screwed up, so they start making stupid excuses like your kids do.
Yeah.
And what is this? I don't know, but it's fueling conspiracy theories.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't necessary. And if they would have just said, "Look, we effed up, guys. We dropped the ball on this. We're working on it, and we're going to have a full analysis and investigation. We'll tell you why." You know, that would have been better than the initial excuses and BS that came out.
Well, and everybody understands that situation. That okay, so if the Trump team did ask for more protection, and the government says no, okay, explain why. That you felt it was enough protection. If that needs to be reevaluated, then reevaluate how many people need to protect the candidates. That's fine. Maybe we don't. If they feel that protocol was held, maybe that protocol's wrong now. And now we got to go through this crap of lies. We've not fixed anything. We've not fixed a damn thing. We haven't protected the people we need to protect because you're lying about it.
You know, the one silver lining that, I'd like to point out, because I'm so critical a lot of times of Democrats, but I would like to point out in this case that it seems like both sides of the aisle are as deeply disturbed as the other about this situation, because after all, the protectees are of both parties. Yeah. And the Secret Service needs to protect President Biden and Vice President Harris, obviously to a high professional degree, and just like they need to protect past presidents like Bush and Obama and Trump, and it's like and Jimmy Carter, and it's like, hey guys, this should not. And I'm glad it has. It looks like they're proceeding on a bipartisan basis with outrage from both sides of the aisle that the Secret Service is not being forthcoming. So I'm encouraged by that.
Yeah, I'm encouraged by that, sort of.
Okay.
But here's what I'm not encouraged by.
Okay.
Like, there are people running the Secret Service or making decisions that are clearly incompetent. And I mean that incompetent, or maybe I should say it a little softer, not capable of doing the job effectively. And I would like to know why that is. And I got a hunch that what we're doing is we're appointing people to positions. And I say we because both parties do this. You appoint people to positions as sort of like, I hate to say political favor, but
but that's exactly what you're going with it.
Feather bedding.
You're right, though.
That's what you're talking about. Sure. Yeah.
And these people aren't qualified to do the damn job.
Yes.
Like Norm in my business or your business and Brett in your business, we wouldn't hire people. Like I wouldn't hire my buddy to be my law clerk just because he's my buddy and he helped me out years ago. It's like, because he's not competent to do the job. So when I use the word incompetent, I mean that. He's not competent to do the job. Maybe they're competent in other areas. Maybe they're very capable humans, but it doesn't mean that you can go be a rare car parts dealer.
Sure.
You can't. It takes years of experience to be good at that stuff, and we're appointing and elevating people to positions that they're not qualified to do, and we call that failing upward in the case of Kamala Harris. But I didn't say that out loud, did I? But it's
well, that's a very fair, Stephen, I think the other thing you might be driving at, you tell me if I'm wrong, is many of these agencies in recent years, for a variety of political reasons, have decided to refocus on things that are not their core mission. And, another good example is NASA. NASA has decided for some reason, instead of exploring space and getting back to the moon or going to Mars or figuring out solar flares or whatever, space exploration, they for a while, and I don't know, maybe still are, they seem obsessed with trying to prove or trying to provide evidence for people that are in the green movement. Or they became a climatology study group. Yeah,
it's
instead of their core mission.
they're not even independent about it. They're partisan about it,
Yeah.
or biased about it.
Yeah.
Like NASA, people don't know that NASA became the new client agenda group. That's all that is. They just repurposed NASA and made it global warming.
Well, and it could be the lack of doing what they should be doing. Because they got, if I remember correctly, they got some money pulled from them to do what their objectives to do. So then they got to go find something to do. So you leave this void of, well, what can we do so we can survive? And then all of a sudden the green, and I think that's inherent with anything.
Yeah, you're right.
Any group,
Obama really defunded them.
Yeah. So it's one of those, okay,
Obama
to survive.
defunded NASA.
Yeah. To survive, what do we need to do? Okay, let's go here. It's kind of tangential.
You're right.
That
they were trying then to please him.
Yeah.
So let's please Al Gore and President Obama. Let's do the things they like. And it's like, no, guys, you need to focus on your core mission and not be, changeable as the political winds shift back and forth.
Right. Even though you've lost some money, you still can do in a limited capacity to do what you can do. Exactly.
Or look.
Yeah.
I mean, dare I say, shut the damn doors. Look, this is the problem with government. This is the problem with the administrative state of government. And I'm not suggesting that NASA isn't good and we shouldn't have NASA. But what I'm suggesting is if it is decided by the executive branch of government, which for those who don't know, happens to control all the administrative branches of government, that they're going to shut down NASA, well, then shut it down. We don't need to pay these people anymore. Instead, they just they shift sideways and they're still collecting checks, and so this is the problem with a non-representative state of government or branch of government like the administrative bodies. That there is no oversight really aside from the president or the executive branch. We the people don't get to say who's hired and who's fired and what their rulemaking is. And this is what we've been harping about with the Chevron doctrine or the overturning of the Chevron doctrine. It's like they're starting to carve away. The court is starting to carve away a little bit at the discretionary power of these branches of government.
Well,
you're
if
it's decided
100%.
that NASA is not necessary, then why are we freaking paying them?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think overall what we're trying to say is too, I'm going to just do your job. We want to pay people to do their job very well, whether you work for the government or not. Just do what you're supposed to do.
When they installed selective service, which was the idea is we're going to depoliticize filling up the federal ranks with, civil service, not selective, civil service. And, that these people will then become functionaries rather than, owing their livelihoods to whoever happens to be in office. They would get to be politically independent and, not campaign on the job and all that kind of stuff. And that was the idea behind civil service. But what it's created as the federal government and local governments get unionized, it's created this thing that Trump and people like Trump call the swamp, where you can't get rid of this installed base of people that decide they want to go off mission if they want to. Like they can
we're stuck with them. Now there's administrative rights and they have unions and the whole thing is a mess. Hey, look, guys, I've got to sign off. I know you guys are going to wrap it up and take it home.
Okay.
So for everybody, I appreciate you tolerating our remote involvement. And I will say again, check us out, commonsenseohioshow.com. Become a sponsor, share, get involved, because it can only make us all that much better. So I'm signing off right from the middle until now, but you guys are going to keep it going. So
take care, partner.
Take care.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brett, one of the things that is happening with Intel is really interesting. So, as you know,
they're in your backyard, so you can kind of take the binoculars out and look and see what's going on, can't you?
So, as you know, they have this $20 billion facility that they're building in Ohio, and as you say, not too far from where I live. And yet, yesterday or maybe the day before, they announced they are terminating 15,000 employees. It is a $10 billion cut in their cost. And their stock, I think, went down 5 or 10% yesterday on that news rather than up. Normally when you cut costs, your stock.
Usually.
I'm kind of wondering, where part of the pitch to the state of Ohio in order to get, tax deferments and
Yeah.
get all this infrastructure like new roads, new sewers, new water, all this stuff, new electrical, these big, huge electrical current, going into the Intel site was all predicated on jobs.
Yeah.
And yet they just cut 15,000 jobs. And you're like, holy cow. So are those jobs going to reappear, someday in Ohio? Like they're cutting jobs at old facilities. And so when this plant, if it ever gets done, they say it will get delayed a little bit because of this news. But when Ohio's new Intel plant is finished, are these jobs really going to be there, or are they going to have robots and automated production where really the people of Ohio have granted all of this cush to Intel, but we're not going to get the jobs is what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, exactly. It's well, and in an industry that, well, and I just looked it up really quickly too, that obviously their cost structure is much higher. The revenue is not growing as expected. Let's put it that way. So our costs are too high, our margins are too low.
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't see. Well, and again, I'm not in that industry, but it's that we're talking chips,
right,
for computers, for everything, and you guys can't make money.
Yeah. You're wondering what the heck is going on with this.
Well, and obviously costs come down to the human factor.
Yeah.
Their employees are making
a
lot of money.
That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people. So what I read here, they're paying out early retirement, enhanced retirement offerings, and
all the usual,
that sort of thing. But to your point of how that affects Ohio, that's interesting. I mean, once a plant's up and running, do they recoup that, or
does the state get some of their money back because they really gave away the store to get them here?
And I guess ultimately right now they're not operating here, so that 15,000 really isn't affecting us yet. But what does that say of the industry? Short term. I mean, long term, I think I can't imagine this industry not making money, but it's that. Well, and you got to figure it out.
And we also talked a little bit, previously about how this is a strategic commodity.
Yeah.
And, that Taiwan, where I guess we get about 80% of our chips from, could at any moment be engaged in a battle for its survival against the mainland Chinese communists. And they keep threatening to come after Taiwan. So I can see both like a military and strategic move here to change production to domestic. And I've even heard Taiwanese chip facilities are going up in America, that the Taiwanese are also hedging their bet. That what if they lose their island? They're going to come to America as citizens and be here, and they're going to have their factories here. So they're already starting to, have a plan B.
That's not a bad deal.
It's not a bad
considering where we're getting our chips for military purposes.
Yes.
Intelligence, that sort of thing. We need to shut this down. That it's got to be all in house.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
It's got to be, or else
make it here. Keep it
or else
here.
you can't control it.
You cannot control it. Exactly.
Like during COVID, I think General Motors and Ford and probably Chrysler, they had to shut down assembly lines because they could not get chips. I guess these cars now have 20, 30, 100. I don't know how many chips in them. Like there's several computers in a car, and they like they're dispersed. It's like a network in your car.
Yeah. I know. I was listening to a podcast talking about the beginnings of Apple and how Apple went into China and was really the driving. They were in the driver's seat initially when they were making their stuff in China, and the Chinese workers filled that need. I mean, they're experts
Yeah.
in creating what they did
Yes.
and are creating.
Yes.
Then the tide kind of turned where the Chinese government is now in control
Yeah.
of everything going on with Apple. That's like
We own you now.
you need us more than we need you,
Yeah.
because there's been talk of like, well, Apple could take stuff to Africa or other third
Right.
worlds again, but it's that there is an intelligence there that they can't replicate that quickly.
Oh no,
Those
right.
those Chinese workers
Training all
are
those workers.
smart
Yeah.
about what they do with it and
Yep.
do it very efficiently
Yeah.
for them. So Apple's kind of
Yeah.
screwed to a certain degree, and it comes down to that same idea of you got to be careful where you're making stuff.
Yeah, that
You know.
$1,000 iPhone would probably be $3,000.
It could very well
if it was
be.
made here.
Yeah, it could be. Exactly. But how do we know that though? We don't know.
Right,
we
don't.
don't know. I mean, because I think we're creative enough to bring costs down. So
Yeah.
if it comes down to, okay, it's going to be a robot doing it versus a person.
Yeah. I mean, look
Yes,
at
that's a
Amazon's
I know.
warehousing system is pretty much robots.
Right. It's
do you know
efficiencies.
Do you know some young people that have worked for Amazon?
I've not. No.
So my
Yeah.
son worked for them for a little bit.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, you go in there and they have brightly painted lines where the robots run. And like, you better not be in that aisle because that thing's programmed to come whizzing by at 30 miles an hour with boxes in its arms. Like,
yeah. Well, and Amazon kind of created that situation because if you think about it, do we really need something that badly that in certain cities they were getting it the same day delivery?
Yeah.
No. I mean, there could be certain, drugs, pharmacy, that sort of thing, but are you really utilizing that system to do that? Probably not.
Yeah.
But it's that, do we really need same day delivery? Do we need next day delivery?
With drones?
Do we truly need that? Because I've been looking at it too, and again, sometimes you've got to order from Amazon because it's not available anywhere else. You just can't go to a Home Depot or Lowe's or
well,
whatever.
they have their own brands. Even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I continue to look at, okay, what are the options that I'm getting that's everything delivered the same day versus that truck coming into my neighborhood every week.
Right.
Just I just ordered a couple of things. Actually, it's being specific. It's replacing some ear pads on our headphones. They wear out after a while.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could have got it today.
Yeah.
But it's that I ordered a bunch of other stuff though too for studio use and my own studio stuff, and it's like I can have it next Tuesday. I'm fine.
Right. Well, and also the frustration if you drive over to a computer store, even a big one, without naming them, but you drive over there and you've got your fingers crossed that they have it in stock.
Yeah.
Whereas, what is so convenient, man? You just turn on the computer, you go to one of these big retailers like Amazon or Walmart, and it tells you right there, yeah, we've got 8 in stock. We can ship this right now. And it's so convenient to hit the button.
And to do that, they have to have those robots rolling through. It just wouldn't get done.
So I don't have a daughter. I wish I did. You have a daughter. I'm curious how you feel about this Olympic boxing thing.
I saw that video of that.
Brett, so listen. People undergoing transitions for gender. I love all people. I love those people. So I don't want to say anything cruel because I don't intend to be cruel about people, the very small percentage of people that feel that they're in the wrong gender and they want to change that. It's okay to identify it. I don't have any problem with any of that. But when it comes down to a contest based not on what you identify as, but what you really are, what you are as a matter of fact, and the idea that this Algerian boxer is putatively a male and only his passport is what claims he is a female. He beat down a boxer in the Olympics and won the match after 40 seconds.
It's one hit, wasn't it?
One hit on her face, and she went down on the mat and just said, that was too painful. That was too hard. I've never been hit like that. It was a man, quality hit. It was, way more torque, if you will,
right,
than what a female boxer in her weight class would
Well,
experience.
they even looked mismatched in the ring.
Yes.
Kinda.
I mean,
I know you can be in the same weight class and be taller, possibly, and stuff. But you kind of looked at it because I was in the initial look at the video going, man, that Algerian looks kind of bigger than she is too.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think the IOC may be going too fast with this.
Yeah.
I need to do a bit more studying of it or whatever, but I haven't talked to her about it. I don't know, so I'm not going to put words into her mouth.
Sure.
But I think we need males need to have a platform to be able to defend the females, to be able to say stuff about this, like this is it fair?
It doesn't
Is it
seem
fair?
It doesn't seem right.
It doesn't
or fair
seem
at
like
all.
it is.
Because they're biologically different. They are different genders. And we've always had, whether it's hurdles, whether it's the marathon, the decathlon, whether it's swimming, whatever the sport is, the Olympics have always had female divisions and male divisions in order that things are equitable. Otherwise,
and
it's chaos.
Maybe it comes down to they're going to have to create their own category of transitioned people fighting, competing against transition people.
Yeah, maybe so.
That could be fair. I don't know.
Or
It's
even
very confusing, but
or even a separate Olympics.
Maybe I don't know.
Like you do for other people,
You
like
do.
Paralympics.
Yes,
people who have lost
and
limbs.
not to say that they are,
but they're different.
But they're different.
So somebody without legs, right, using a wheelchair, they actually can finish a marathon faster. Than somebody with legs,
right? And I get that all this training went into, or at whatever sex you are and wherever you're going with it. That's a decade. It can be decades of training.
Oh, definitely,
honestly.
Yeah.
And
like,
I'm not there to take it away from them, saying
like Simone Biles.
Yeah, right.
I mean she has been training since practically birth.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And you don't want to take that away from them. That they have this drive to want to compete.
Right.
You would think that Algerian would not want to be in that situation either.
That's what I don't
You would
get.
think.
Well, that's like Leah Thomas, the NC2A swimmer, the guy, so he's got all his tackle, like I'm not trying to be graphic, but like Bruce Jenner, now Caitlyn Jenner has, he's very open that he still has his man parts. And he has been very critical of men competing against women. And Bruce Jenner.
And I have not heard.
Oh, yeah. Bruce Jenner is one of.
That's good.
Or Caitlyn Jenner, I should say.
Well, that's good.
Has been one of the very, like he's on the same side as Riley Gaines, where hey, come on, you cannot have Leah Thomas, who's like a foot and a half taller than Riley, swimming against her as a man, and he's just saying. And I put just in quotes because that portrays a little bit of my bias. But after all, his claim is that he identifies as a woman, but he's not biologically a woman. I mean, that's just the facts. Physically, he's not a woman. Now, mentally, he may think he is one, and I don't want to discount that. I don't want to shame him. But at the same time, you wonder about why would a guy like him go in and try to take all the records and all the gold medals from actual collegiate women like Riley Gaines.
It's somewhat comparable to when we had the steroid use.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yeah.
That they're juicing up. They're now that next level up beyond anybody else.
Right.
That was very rampant in baseball for a while.
And you put an asterisk on their records.
They did. Correct.
Yeah.
They did.
Sammy Sosa, and who was the other guy for Kansas City?
McGuire.
Right.
So again, it's not necessarily comparable, but you could think of it in that mindset.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I
think IOC's moving a bit too fast on this. And I realize they're working against the clock because Olympics happen basically every 2 years, and I get it. It's one of those they've got to do that, but I don't know.
They did turn down. Speaking of Leah Thomas, he wanted to make the Olympic team for the United States, and in his case, they ruled against him. He could not represent the United States. And that was an IOC decision. And so I just wonder how did this boxer end up in the ring with this against the female boxer?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, I love it. It changed subject a little bit, but I meant to bring this up a couple of weeks ago, but we get into other topics, and this is not heavy, but it does affect Ohio to a certain degree. So I love the mark. I didn't think about how great this marketing was for the post office to create forever stamps. I think we talked a little bit about this off mic. That you buy your forever stamps and you really don't know how much that stamp is because it doesn't come in denominations. You can do the math easily in regards to the number of stamps you get.
Yeah, you got to look it up.
You kind of have to. You have to get the calculator
out. What's this thing worth? 68 cents or
right,
70?
Exactly. So, and I remember when the postage stamp amount went up, it made some news. You knew it was going to happen. Right. So you with the forever stamp, at least you go, oh, I got to buy a bunch of forevers because it's going up.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I don't know whether most people know that the stamp went up again mid-July.
Yes. For the second time this year.
Second time this year. And the sixth time in 3 years.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know. Do you know what the price of a stamp is?
Well, it was 68. What did it go to?
73.
It went up a nickel.
73 cents.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's a big jump.
So I bring this up because there are still things that now again, that's your cost and my cost.
Yeah.
I just got this direct mail piece, junk mail that we call 17 cents. So I get it. I get it. The post office is, hey, we got to make a deal because they're sending out thousands and thousands and thousands. Yeah. But but how far do you need to go to make this deal? But what I look at it from goes back to our very first initial stories of all this electronic transfer of payment. Yeah. And I'm diving into it as well. I pay a lot of stuff online. Most of it now. I used to be, I'm going to stamp it. I'm going to stamp it. I'm just going to do that. But it's that sometimes you just got to wait till the last minute to pay something, or it is more convenient. One day you just go on the computer and you pay stuff.
73 cents. I mean, it's a better part of $1.
I know.
I mean, it's heading that way.
So if you're paying 10 bills a month, let's say, that's $7 in stamps.
That's a lot.
That you're going out. It can be costly, though. Again, the marketing of the forever stamp you don't recognize it, but it does affect Ohioans. It does affect commerce. Wow. In regards to paying a bill or sending a letter or
just thinking about.
I don't know, when do they stop becoming relevant?
I wonder how many people think of this as an investment. I wonder how many people went in there the day before it went to 73, right?
Yeah.
And bought 3,000 stamps. They instantly made 8-9% on their money the next day, right? Just think of that.
And you're not into Bitcoin. How are you not into Bitcoin?
The other thing that all their other prices have gone skyrocketing. So in my mail order business, I used to use the post office's, what do they call it, priority mail. Mm-hmm. And they have these flat rate boxes. Yes. So if you go in there, the smallest flat rate box or envelope used to be $4.20. And it was guaranteed to get there in most places in America. It was guaranteed to get there in 2 days, maybe 3 at the most. That same box or envelope today is $10 something. So it more than doubled in the last, as you say, 5-6 years. It's doubled.
Yeah.
And think of all the people on eBay or Amazon or whatever they're doing. They're shipping books or they're shipping necklaces or whatever they're selling, and you're just thinking, wow, man, they doubled their shipping costs just like that.
Yeah.
And there's really no legal alternative to mail. You have to use the post office.
Or in some UPS.
UPS has a mail option, but guess who delivers it on the final delivery? It's the post office.
Still through the post office. Yeah. So it touches their hands.
Yeah, that's
right.
And
I'm not anti-post office. I know they're working on efficiencies. The cost of the stamp goes up based on inflation, so it is tied
Yeah,
to that.
no question.
So yeah, our inflation rate has gone up, so the stamp's probably going to go
Yeah,
up as well
yeah,
too.
yeah.
And for the most part, I've had really good conversations and interactions with post office people. I've maybe
Yeah.
a few things here or there that we had to send our daughter's passport to her. She didn't take it with her to Colorado. We just thought, well, we can mail it to her later.
Yeah.
Didn't want to get it lost in shuffle, travel. And the post office here, I wanted it delivered a specific way because she wasn't going to be home, and I wanted to make sure she, had it.
Signature required.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
And what they told me here and what happened in Colorado, two different stories.
Two different stories.
And
that's similar to my problem.
Yeah.
My problem was I shipped. This was the most expensive letdown for me with the post office. So I shipped about $1,000 order to a customer in Canada, and I bought the post office's insurance for the full $1,000. Well, have you ever tried to get paid back by the federal government?
Oh,
it was.
never
So
thought
what
about
they
that.
said was, we require the Canadian post office to give us a report on the package being lost. And the Canadian post office had no incentive to sit down and write a report, so they never
No.
did. And I said to the U.S. post office, I can't make them do this.
Right.
But I bought insurance from you, and it's lost. No payment,
Wow.
just no resolution. They didn't give me half or a third or a fourth. Nothing.
And that could happen even if it wasn't even international. It
Yeah.
could have been
Oh, yeah,
5 states
domestic.
over. Why would any post
So
office,
the
the manager or whatever their title is at any post office have the
Exactly.
incentive to do it?
Exactly.
I mean,
the
you'd
Canadian
hope they
post
would.
office, they were like, it's not our problem.
Wow.
And so, naturally, I took the hit. I had to reship that order to that customer. And it, obviously I lost money on that. So, post office, as you say, they don't operate like FedEx or UPS where they seem incentivized to solve customer problems, because they sort of know we've got a monopoly on the mails.
Yeah, and it really, yes, every person behind the counter is a little bit different.
Yeah.
I've had some that will go because they like their job.
Well, this
They
was
like,
more,
and some just are you feel that they're just kind of there.
this insurance thing was more
Yeah.
like a policy thing.
Yeah,
it didn't
that's
come
true.
down to personalities.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the people I dealt with were pleasant enough.
Yeah, right.
But they were just like, hey, I'm operating under these rules.
I know.
And
Yeah.
unless we have a report from them that it's lost.
They have their protocols on how they work
Exactly.
too. Jeez, yeah. Oh well. Yeah.
Another thing I
Yeah,
just wanted
yeah.
I wanted to bring up real quick, and I
Yeah,
guess
let's do
then
it.
we'll wrap it up, is on this constitutional amendment about redistricting. So I did a deep dive, and I actually read the language in the petition. And on the face, so this is one of those things where you do need to read the details. So on the face of it, they want to pick the new commission in the constitutional amendment would be, if it passes, 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and so 15 people, and 5 citizens. And the way that they would be selected, so the way those 15 get picked is with a 4-person panel made up of 2 Republican retired judges and 2 Democrat retired judges. So those 4 people will pick the 15 people.
All right.
Okay. So then you've got to back up and go, well, who picks the 4 people, right? Because if the 4 retired justices, if the 4 retired judges
True.
are biased, right?
Yeah. Well, but
You're just passing the bias.
We
up.
all are biased, so they will be biased. I mean, there's no way around it.
But you're going to love this. So if you
that's
dig
true.
into the language, guess how the 4 judges get picked.
Oh God.
So this is beautiful.
Okay.
So there is something that exists right now called the Ohio Ballot Board, and they're the people you go to submit a constitutional amendment or whatever you want to
Right.
be put on the ballot. And then they send it over to Frank LaRose and Dave Yost
Yeah.
to have the language assessed about whether it's clear and understandable and all of that. Do they have enough signatures?
Mm-hmm.
So what they're saying is the Ohio ballot board, the four members that are appointed by the legislature, 2 Republican and 2 Democrats, those 4 people will pick the 4 retired judges who will then pick the 15 members of the redistricting committee. And what it says, how those 4 people get to pick the judges is the majority party will select 8 people that it wants to, the 8 judges that it wants to comprise this 4-judge panel. But then it's the minority party that gets to pick the out of the list of 8, they pick the 4. So
how many layers?
Oh my God, Brett!
Wow,
it
okay.
just sounds to me like it's just another system to. It's still political.
Well,
so the way the current system is regardless of what party the officers are.
Yeah,
it's the governor. So the current redistricting committee is the governor, the auditor, the secretary of state, the Speaker of the House appoints one, the President of Senate appoints one, and then the largest minority party in the House picks one, and the largest minority party in the Senate picks one. So that happens to be right now 5 Republicans and 2 Democrats.
Right.
But as the opponents of this constitutional amendment pointed out, this system of 7 people passed when the Democrats and the Republicans in the House and Senate voted. It passed 82-8 in the House. It passed 28-1 in the Senate. And then the people of Ohio, by 71%, approved the constitutional amendment back in 2015 and 2018.
Okay.
So the overwhelming number of Democrats and Republicans supported the current system.
Yeah.
And you never heard anybody complain when Dick Celeste was governor and when Harry Michel was a Democrat president of the Senate and Vern Rife was the Democrat Speaker of the House. So when the Democrats ran everything in Ohio, you didn't hear Republicans say we need to redo the redistricting committee. You know, it's like now that Republicans are in the majority on this 7-person committee, now all of a sudden it's gerrymandering. But it wasn't gerrymandering when the Democrats were running.
Yeah. And I know they got enough signatures around the state. I have enough counties.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know I was approached to sign. I remember.
Yeah.
You never.
And it's on the ballot.
Yeah. You never. When you signed on that. And I'm not saying this was misleading. It's not. I'm not saying it was misleading, but you signed off on an idea that made we should.
Yeah, right.
That was, and again, it's devil in the details. And I heard DeWine talking about the Iowa plan as well too, which I'm not in love with either, necessarily, because from what I understand, the Iowa plan is they throw 3 maps out there, and the legislature can thumbs down it every time, and then they get the final say.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's like, okay, it's the same process that they're going to say no to stuff if they don't like it. Then they know after 3 strikes they get to make the plan. So I don't think the Iowa plan is that great either. And his explanation on video of the snake around the lake and the ice cream cone is like, God, DeWine, you're just shut up.
Honestly,
just shut up.
You know, the more forthright and honest thing to say, in my opinion, is even though, I know some people don't like him, Matt Huffman, they think, he's too partisan, whatever. But when you look at the history of the current system and how it was overwhelmingly approved by Republicans and Democrats, and the fact that like Stephen King and the Tides Foundation and all these people, $27 million are pushing this constitutional amendment, and they're all liberal groups. And the reason is because they think that the 15-person deal will end up being more liberal than Republican. So that's their thinking. That's why they're pushing it. And as Huffman pointed out, I don't see them going after the same kind of committee that Ohio has in like New York or California. They're targeting Ohio because it's a red state. I mean, let's just be honest.
Yeah,
this is politics.
No. Yeah, how can it not be? Because it's drawing political lines.
It's politics, and
maybe the system we have in there is not 100% great. It's working, but at the same time,
that's right.
What modifications do we need to make it better? It just seems like there's both solutions are not a middle ground.
The way the current system works, it's not just these 7 people don't meet and just like, okay, the majority rules. So I don't know if you know this, but under the current system, the 2 Democrats, the law says, like Ohio Constitution currently says, that at least 2 members of the minority party must approve any redistricting plan. So that means the 5 Republicans have to present a plan that the 2 minority Democrats on there currently, have to go along with. In other words, the redistricting plan, the map, cannot be approved unless these 2 Democrats on the current 7-person,
right,
they have to approve it.
And vice versa, if it were 5 Democrats and 2 Republicans,
they would
be the same scenario.
The same scenario. Yeah. So it does the current system does have bipartisanship kind of built into it.
But why didn't DeWine say that?
I don't know. See, that's
I mean, I can understand that rather than doing this graph of snakes and ice cream cones.
Unbelievable.
Good God! Just explain what the hell it is.
Defend the system,
and then we can make a choice.
Then we can make a choice. Is this good enough or not? And apparently it was good enough for Vernon Sykes and the Democrats back in 2015. They voted for it.
Yeah.
82-8 and 28-1 in the Senate. Yeah. It was almost unanimously approved.
And sadly, we're not going to have this discussion right here to flush out both sides of it. The details. Pros and cons of it, and then make a choice without any bias on it at all. Of course, everything has bias, of course, but it's that you explaining it that way. I did not know, and nobody's really talking.
Going to get into the granular detail,
right? The stupid graphs, and that is the first way to overwhelm someone is to show a map of gerrymandering.
Right.
That you can see them going, oh yeah, we got to change that.
Oh yeah. Right.
I mean, I get it too. I look at it going, that's stupid.
That's weird looking.
That's weird looking.
Right.
Always has been that way. Now that we have social media and we can see graphics all the time, it's in our face as much as we want it to be.
Right.
But it's always been that way.
Right.
Good or bad. I'm not advocating it's right or wrong or good or bad right now, but it's that way.
Yes.
But the system behind it, that is knowledge to think on.
That's right.
It's knowledge to think on. And do you like it or not, or do you want the next session to readdress it? DeWine says they're going to readdress it. Whether he's full of crap or not, I don't know.
So his plan.
I don't know.
So there is this nonpartisan, if you will, they're like the General Accounting Office in the federal government, where theoretically they just give you back facts and they don't slant it. And it's called the Legislative Service Commission in Ohio. And they're the people, like if I have an idea that I want all the school buses to be painted with purple stripes or something, I want to go have that law drafted, I, as a state representative or a state senator, can take my idea to the Legislative Service Commission, and they don't question whether the only thing they'll advise you is whether it's constitutional or not. And then they go ahead and draft your bill, and then you can present that bill. So they're the people that actually have the legal knowledge of how to take your idea and turn it into actual legislation. So DeWine's idea is to have, as you said, Brett, the Iowa model, is to have the LSC, Legislative Service Commission, draw up the map, thinking they'll be unbiased. And then you pick from the map you like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of a chicken way to offload what really is their responsibility to do.
Yes. Yeah.
After all, in a democratic way, we elect these politicians to represent us. Okay? So they should be carrying out the will of the people. And if that's political, well, that's how our system works. We do have a political system.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
No. I think your point, well taken. Start doing some digging on this issue.
I mean,
because it is important.
As President Obama famously told John McCain, John, elections have consequences.
Yeah, they do.
And they do.
They do. Yeah, for sure. It's just, that there are some comments that just kind of stick the wrong way when
we want fairness.
We do.
And I
mean,
think
ultimately,
the veto power by the 2 minority people on the 7-person committee.
That's pretty strong.
They can hold them up forever.
Yeah.
And just say, and this is once every 10 years, by the way.
Right. And it's painted like it happens every year.
Yeah.
It does.
Right.
And I guess it's because we're talking about it constantly.
Yes.
But yeah, good point that it's every census taking, basically, every 10 years. Yeah.
Right.
So it's that nothing's going to change really immediately in regards to the mapping.
No.
Yeah. I don't even know when the next mapping is.
If this passes, if the new 15-person panel that would redistrict, the amendment calls for them to have their first map by July of next year.
Next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they would have to get their act together.
Yeah.
If it passes in November, they need to appoint these people. They got to go through that process I described, and then they have to have a product by July.
And how does a normal citizen raise their hand they want to be on that committee?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I want to.
You get to submit your name.
Yeah. Okay.
To either the Republicans or
Not
the
that I want to,
Democrats,
yeah.
or the 4-panel judge.
Yeah. Right. Right.
That picks them.
Jeez, I'm crying.
I know.
Wow. Wow. What a mess.
Like that won't be political.
Yeah, and that's probably stuff that we should dig into that a little bit more again, because I know there are going to be more things unveiled about it in regards to
for sure.
hopefully clarity.
Yeah, right.
And I want to learn about it too, because this is kind of important.
Yeah,
That kind of.
Let's maybe bring in somebody who's
that'd be nice. Yeah.
an expert on this.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And maybe a legislator, or maybe the Buckeye Institute, somebody.
I'll have to get what's her face, the former judge, see if she's.
Yeah, Maureen O'Connor. She's pushing this.
I'd love to. Yeah, exactly.
She's passionate about it.
Yeah.
She turned down 4 plans in a row.
Yeah.
Before she finally left office, and then they passed it without her.
with the new one in. Yeah, it's true. That's true. Well, we want to thank you for going through a whole episode with us. Again, if you liked what you heard, please let us know. Email us. We've got the email address available in the show notes as well as on the website. If you're so inclined to give us maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars on your player of choice, please do that. Let us know what you do like and don't like for sure. And any topics you want us to cover. CommonSenseOhioShow.com is the website. And we always appreciate you as a listener. We'll talk to you next time.